So one of the meals that our family loves to eat is it's called oven baked pork chops and potatoes. And it's one of those recipes that I can just whip up really quickly and the kids gobble it up. When I told them I was making this tonight, they were like, yes! So I just wanted to go through it really quick with you, and I already shared the recipe on the post beforehand, and I'll show you what the finished product looks like in real life. So what I've been doing in prep is I have diced up a whole bunch of red potatoes in tiny bite-sized pieces. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that and I'm going to spread it on my baking sheet right there and spread it around. I've had my oven going on its convection heat at 390 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's nice and hot. So you take those potatoes and drizzle it with olive oil. I guess I should have cut the lid open. Drizzle with olive oil, just lightly. And then season it with some salt and pepper. I have learned the joy of olive oil and vegetables. I do my broccoli that way, I do my carrots that way, we use our asparagus that way. Just love olive oil with salt and pepper and put in the oven. So potatoes on the pan, like so. I'm going to pop that in the oven, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to prep the pork chops. One of the things I love about this recipe is that it's all on one pan. You might have noticed that I line that pan with parchment paper. It's because I love parchment paper. Just clean it up, after you're all done, wad it all up, throw in the garbage, and wipe down the pan, but there's nothing stuck on it. So I am a big believer in parchment paper. So on to the sauce for the pork chops. You need to have, the recipe calls for 4 pork chops, and I have a teenage boy, and so I always make 6. That's what comes in the package, and also then there's enough for him to have 2 at dinner and another one for my husband to have for lunch the next day. I've learned that that is something that I have to do every single meal, is have enough for 2 servings for the teenage boy, and then the rest of us all have ours. Anyway, so double that recipe, the rub ingredients. You start with Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of that. I'm not what anyone would call a really fancy cook, but my husband is a farm boy, and if he could have a meal every single, 2 tablespoons of ketchup. Oh, I'm just going to guess on this one. Okay. I'll measure it out for you. I usually would just throw it in. But if he could have any meal, he would have meat and potatoes every single night for dinner. Not my favorite thing. I like a lot of different variety, but that's what means home to him. Oh, doubling that recipe means that I actually need to put 4 tablespoons of ketchup in there. Okay. So then 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. And 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Remember, this is my doubled recipe, so if you're making it with just 4 pork chops, you do half of all this. The recipe is just for 1. And 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And then it asks for 1 clove of minced garlic. I learned a trick a while ago, and I don't know who taught me this, but When it asks for a clove of garlic, I always use the minced garlic. You can buy that with your spices. It saves me having to chop up the garlic, but it also gives me that fresh option. So when it asks for 1 teaspoon, my family likes garlic, so I tend to go a little heavy on that, but 1 teaspoon for 1 clove, and then doubling it. What's that? Okay. So then you just mix up that rub together. And you're going to cover your pork chops with the rub. You can use whatever type of pork chops you want. I tend to do the bone-in one just because it's a little bit cheaper. And again, when you're feeding a teenager and meat, I always tend to go on the cheaper side. So I'm just gonna baste the one side of these pork chops. And then I'm gonna pull out the potatoes and turn them over and do the other side. And it is as simple and easy as this. My type of recipes are ones that I can do quick and easy. I have to admit that being a working mom, I tend to find, sorry, I hope you can see that. Being a working mom, I tend to realize at 4 o'clock that it's time for dinner and I'm scrambling to put together food. I know I should be a little more better and plan my meals, but it's the procrastinator in me. So you can pull those up, the potatoes at the oven, and we'll put the pork chops on. And I can see comments, but I'm too far away from the thing to read it. So I love you and I'll respond later on. Okay. So just toss those potatoes around in the olive oil, and they're gonna just continue to cook. Usually I'm not that prepped and I give them a good 15 minutes in the oven before I've got the pork chops ready, but they're ready now, and so I'm not going to stress because these can stay in longer if they need to be. Okay, so on to the pork chops. So I'm turning them upside down and putting them on the pan. I've moved the potatoes away. Let's see if I can lift this up without burning my fingers. I've moved the potatoes around to the edge, edge of the pan, and I'm putting the pork chops in the middle of them. And I'm gonna squeeze them all in here nice and tight. And it's okay if the potatoes are layered up higher, because you're gonna turn around and toss them a couple of times while it's cooking. And find room for that last pork chop. Okay, and then I'm going to baste them on the top side with that same rub. And I don't know whether it's the Worcestershire or the garlic or the apple cider vinegar or whatever, but it makes the house smell awesome when it's cooking. And so alongside a meal like this, I would just do a salad. We have that Olive Garden salad dressing from Costco, and that is the quickest salad I whip together, and my kids think they're at the Olive Garden. Okay, so now the pan is layered. The potatoes are all around those pork chops. I'll give you one last peek. Put on my mitts so I don't burn my hands. And it looks layered. It looks covered like that. So it is stock full. These are awesome big pans. I got when I got married. I think they were at Costco back when. many, many moons ago. Actually tomorrow, Trevor and I celebrate our 19th wedding anniversary. So it's, that pan's that old. Anyway, so that's what it looks like. Throw it in the oven. I still have some rub remaining, and what I'm gonna do is later on, I'll flip them over, the pork chops, probably about 10 minutes, and then I will flip them over and baste them again. And the juice is gonna run amongst those potatoes, and it's gonna make them nice and crispy and cover them with awesome goodness. And then at the very end, so they've cooked for 10 minutes on one side, and I flip them over and cook them to 10 minutes on the other side, just the pork chops, and also mix up the potatoes at the same time. And then take out the pan, flip on the oven to grill, a broiler on high, and then put them back in again for one last few minutes for the pork to sort of get caramelized and golden. And then pull it out and serve the whole pan just right on the table, and serve it as is. And it is the best meal. It's one of my favorite versions of pork chops that I love to make, and it's a hit. So I just wanted to share that with you. Haven't seen lots of you for a long time and just missing that connection. And so I hope this is some way that we can stay in touch. So best of luck with your cooking. If you have any questions, just post comments in the link underneath there, and I will respond to them as best as I can. Enjoy and have a great week. We'll talk to you later.